Good morning, CLC. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being a part of our service today. Before we get started, we want to let you know what's going on this week. We have a few big things happening. On Friday, May 27th is the date. Isn't that the date, May 27th? Okay, thank you. Thank you for helping me out with that. We have at 7:30 p.m. right here in this very hall, we have the ordination of Reverend Lisa Ryan. Since this is the last time, can we clap, Jesse? Okay, we're clapping. We're clapping, people. We're clapping. Yes. Yes, this is the week. So I hope you all can attend. We will have it also via Zoom if you are out of town or unavailable to come in that evening. If you need that link, then you need to let either me, Lisa, David, or Jesse know so that we can send that to you. This will not be on Facebook Live, but we will have it on Zoom for everyone who would like to participate that way. But we would love to see you here in the room cheering her on and giving her all the best love and light and well wishes that we possibly can for her ordination ceremony. So please join us. Again, that's this Friday at 7:30 p.m. right here. And now with that, we come to our inner healing experience. So I just want to take a minute to invite you all just to take a nice deep breath. Slow down your body and your mind for just a little bit. Put any thoughts or feelings or worries or concerns aside for now. And I invite you just to take another nice, deep breath, breathing in cool, crisp air. And on your out breath, just release all stress and tension and anything that no longer serves you. Allow your body to relax and allow your mind to be here now. Universal love enfolds me. Universal wisdom inspires me. Universal spirit enlightens me. Universal power encircles me. I am one, and all is well. As we begin this inner healing process, let me invite you to relax in quiet confidence, opening yourself to the miracle-working higher power. Now symbolize the unity of your thinking and feeling nature by touching your chest with your right hand, and let my words act as your own. For your own inner healing, acceptance, and receptivity. I acknowledge that there is a power, intelligence, and wisdom greater than my own. I am in the midst of it, and it is in the midst of me, sensitive and responsive to my every thought, word, action, and feeling. I now make this true for myself by saying aloud, I acknowledge.
I acknowledge.
Acknowledging this higher power working through my life, I admit that I am personally responsible for solving my own problems while being guided and assisted by something greater than myself. As I am ready to surrender the conflicts of my ego to the wisdom of this infinite presence, I simply speak these words: I surrender.
I surrender.
Knowing that forgiveness is the key to unconditional love and the feeling of heaven, I now unconditionally forgive anyone and everyone who has ever injured me in any way, real or imagined. And I now forgive myself for all of my mistaken judgments and their resulting actions. From my deepest level of understanding, I now say, I forgive.
I forgive.
Realizing that I continually experience the effects of my own thinking, I now choose to allow this higher power to recreate me deeply, filling my mind with thoughts that are only positive, constructive, loving, and beautiful. I call upon this divine inflow by stating aloud, I choose.
I choose.
I now center upon that one special idea that I'm willing to accept as real for me in this coming week. Visualizing that idea as already acted upon and brought to pass. In seeing my idea become a fact of my experience, I enjoy the happiness and peace of my thought fulfilled and gratefully speak these words: I accept.
I accept.
Knowing that I have an everlasting place in the midst of the power that sustains all creation, as well as the support of all those around me, I allow myself to relax in the peace of fulfillment and gratitude and say, I release.
I release.
Now, in my mind's eye, I envision the presence of someone near and dear to me. This can be a friend, a family member, a teacher or mentor, someone who has touched my life in deep and loving ways. Someone who may not be physically present in the room with me this morning. I turn toward that image in my mind's eye and say, I'm grateful for the good in your life.
Grateful for the good in your life.
Now I open my eyes, turn to the world around me, and joyfully speak to anyone physically present in the room or virtually on this broadcast, and share in confidence and gratitude in saying, I'm grateful for the good in your life.
Well, good morning. Couple of program notes. Danielle didn't get this update in time, but the John Rennie's Florence Scovel Shin book study, they've run out of Florence Scovel Shin. They've to the last word. So they're starting up on a book called Activate Your Spiritual Immune System by Dr. Michelle Madrano. That's recently published, and she is a great friend of this center. She's co-lead minister at Mile High Church in Denver, and we go back a long way. You're going to love it. So wherever it says Florence Shin, just substitute that title. The time is the same, the link is the same, John Rennie is the same, except he isn't, which is kind of what today is about, because we're never the same. You know, we're always changing, but there's an unbroken continuity of growth. This is what Ursula Gestefeld has to say. Ursula Gestefeld has been my Florence Scovel Shin for the last month, you see. And it's going to take us a couple of more weeks to run out of her words, and then we'll move on to something else in June. But she wrote a book called The Builder and the Plan in the 1890s, and the principles in that book still work. That's the thing about principles. That's why they call them principles. They're not fads or trends or passing thoughts. They're principles, and so they keep working no matter what. And she uses a metaphorical set of building a place. There are all kinds of metaphorical sets you can use. One that Ernest Holmes used a lot was gardening, you know, planting a seed as an idea in a fertile ground and watering it and giving it sunlight and rain and so on, and it grows and it matures. Well, her model, her metaphor, is the building of a house. So last month in April, if I haven't totally confused you yet, in April we had a heroic journey where we went hither and yon, and we came back to where we began, but we were different. And the place was different because of all we'd been through. And we decided, once home, to build something. So we started with a foundation, we put up the framing, we put in the walls and ceiling, and that was last week. We got to that, and today we're going to start decorating the place. We're going to furnish it, we're going to select some things to give us a certain feeling. You have stuff in your house. This is a great word, you probably know it. I think it's from the Yiddish, tchotchkes. Tchotchkes, yeah. Actually, what tchotchke is a hybrid of tchotchke and latke. So, small items made of potatoes. But anyway, you have items that you've selected, pieces of furniture, art hanging on the walls, things that make you feel something. You can buy books by the foot. If people who aren't really readers can get, you know, books by the foot because they're pretty and they look nice and substantial, you know. Or you can select the books that you do read and fill your house with those. You can have minimalist design. That's a trend right now, where everything's kind of metallic and fine legs on furniture and stuff, or you can have heavy, you can have a Rococo break front, and you get the point. But you select what you have based on how it makes you feel. Based on how it makes you feel. Well, the interior house that we build is the same. We select the ideas, the feelings, the sensations and stuff that cause us joy. There's a little Marie Kondo at work here too, but that cause us to feel something special. And we're the ones who are in charge of that, how we feel about things. No one else really can do that for us. No one else can control our choices as to how to feel inside. They can control a lot of things about our choices outside, depending on how much power we give them or how much power society's given them. But inside we do the work, and we decide how to feel. I'll give you a couple examples of this practically. There's a guy named Adley Rutschman. Does that name ring a bell? Adley Rutschman. Adley Rutschman made his major league debut yesterday with the Baltimore Orioles as a catcher. And he hit a triple for his first major league hit. Adley Rutschman is the most heralded rookie in years. This guy has been the #1 prospect in the minor leagues for like 3.5 years. And reading about, because I like baseball, and so I read about baseball, and I've been reading about this guy. And when are they going to call him up? And when are they going to call him up? And finally they did. And he came up. And he put on his uniform and his batting helmet, and he went out there and he stood at the plate, you know, and he faced these pitches. And nothing about that was really different than what he had been doing for Norfolk, I think it was, or the AAA team, and the AA team, and the Single A team, and the Summer League team, and all of the teams, Little League, all the way back. All the other teams that he'd ever played for before he suited up for the Orioles yesterday, he still stood there and faced a pitcher who threw balls at him, and he's a catcher, and so then he went in the dugout and came back with his stuff on, and he sat there and he caught pitches, and nothing about that was remarkably different but for the venue. That now, instead of playing in front of 3,000 fans, he was playing in front of, I don't know, 20,000 people in a major league stadium, and he'll face a lot more when they go play the Yankees. And what are the feelings that were going through his mind? Well, they tried to interview him about this, and you know, the word awesome gets thrown around a lot. It's like there really are no words. You know, reporter sticks a microphone, how did it feel to be up? Well, I don't know, it's just, you know, he's an overwhelm. But nothing in the structure was that different. An overhand curve is still an overhand curve. It was in the sensation within. Then we come to the Reverend Lisa Ryan, who on Friday night is going to be ordained. And when you see her next Sunday, she's going to be the Reverend Lisa Ryan that you know and remember. There may be a beatific glow about her, you know. But more likely than not, she's going to be the same Reverend Lisa Ryan that you remember. For print, because we've got like 27 different things happening, including multiple pieces of music and speakers. I mean, you do not want to miss this. You don't want to be one of those sad individuals who shows up next Sunday and says, oh, was that Friday? Okay. You've had plenty of advance warning. It's on all available platforms, and you can watch it on Zoom. Well, when she shows up next week, she's going to be an ordained minister. What does that mean to you and me? It may mean something more to me than it means to the average bear, because I am one, but I can tell you how I felt, and how she's going to feel is going to be very hard to explain. Very, very hard to explain. But she will know that she's been through it. We have a couple in the room today who were married recently on this stage. The day after the wedding, they were still who they were the day before the wedding, or were they? You see? All of this is interior. Somebody comes up to you and they compliment you. You're still the same person you were, but you feel differently about yourself. Somebody insults you. You see? And you move around all of your interior furniture. We rearrange the furniture of consciousness constantly till we learn differently. We're angling for approval so much of the time, starting in the schoolyard, starting in the home, starting in probably almost infancy or toddlerhood anyway. We're looking for approval. We're looking for somebody to tell us we're all right. Ernest Holmes writes about this. He says people are dying for somebody to tell them they're all right. And you don't know they're dying for somebody to tell them that because they don't dare say so. Because of the fear that if they ask for somebody to tell them that, nobody would. And then where would they be? But we're all looking for something, and we're rearranging the furniture. And maybe if I do this, I'll become popular and have friends. And maybe if I do this, I'll become successful and have money. And maybe. So we rearrange the furniture of stuff. We read books on this. And I know this is ironic, my telling you this, because right across the courtyard we have what? Filled with what? On what? Right? You can be successful. You can be prosperous. You can, right? You can change this and change, be confident and be, you know, and you read this, you read enough of this stuff and you're, well, I'll try this and I'll try that and you know, to get what I think I want. It's easier than that. And at the same time, more difficult. It's easier than that because it's got fewer steps. And it's more difficult because it involves inner work. Self-acceptance now. Self-acceptance today, without another moment having passed, without one more nickel in your pocket than you had yesterday, without one more friend, Facebook or real, without one more anything, to accept yourself just as you are. And When you accept yourself just as you are, as well as being an individual in transit, because we're always in transit into some new expression of ourselves. When you accept yourself that way, the whole universe accepts you. And as I look at Lisa and Danielle, I was thinking we had this conversation, and it was in a talk that one of the three of us gave a couple of years ago, not long after you weren't here on Sundays for a while. And it came to that another way of putting that God does not judge, or the universe does not judge, which is true, but maybe it doesn't sink in. There's another way of putting that, which is that the moment you accept yourself, the whole universe accepts you. It has no choice. It has no choice, because you're the one who flips that switch. So you accept yourself just as you are, and people line up to be your friend. Not because you need them to, or they need you to, or it's not based on need anymore. When you accept yourself as you are, creative ideas show up, not because they haven't before, but because you haven't noticed them before. You haven't noticed them as much. When you're stuck in the need for approval, you don't notice what's going on. It's all about just this, you know? It's like you're hungry. If you're really, really hungry, all you can think about is food. And it doesn't matter, the sun comes up and the moon and it rains and it's this and the birds are singing and the butterflies. No, all you can think about is, what can I eat? So when we need approval, it's like, what can I, take in from the world? Certainly not what can I give, because I must not have anything to give, else I wouldn't be seeking approval so strongly. So when we accept ourselves as we are, a lot of good things happen. Why more religions don't teach this is beyond me. Is beyond me. They get all balled up in the theology of the thing and what this prophet meant, and what that Messiah taught, and a lot of rules, and don't do this and stop that, put that down, and you go over here, and a lot of crowd control and moving around. It's like, just accept yourself as you are, and you function better. You're more compassionate, you're more kindly. You want to do things, let's manipulate here for a moment. You want to do things like, I don't know, go to a high school parking lot on a Saturday afternoon to hand out food to total strangers. If you've accepted yourself. Will they approve of you? Will they accept you? Of course they will. Especially if you accept that what you're doing there, as was pointed out beautifully by Dr. Catherine Thomas and Reverend Sheila Gautreaux in this two-part soul session that we recorded over 2 Wednesdays, they just nailed the idea, especially when you realize, in terms of giving and receiving, there is on this earth one person. I had to sit back in my chair. This is one person. We are one life. We're not kidding. We're not kidding. There is one life. That life is Source, God, Spirit. That life is all the life there is. Therefore, that one life, there's one person. So I'm not feeding a stranger. I'm not even feeding a neighbor. Feeding me. Feeding me. Feeding me food. They're feeding me gratitude. Back and forth it goes. So she points out in the book here, she says, your life is always in transit. And she talks about growth in an interesting way, or I found it interesting. It was like a different way of putting words together, where she says that you realize that you begin in infancy and you grow toward maturity. Of course. She says, but you also, once you're in maturity, are moving into infancy. And what she means by that is, once you figure stuff out, you get a new lesson. Once you figure stuff out, you get a new task set, and you don't know what to do with it. And you're like an infant, or you're like an innocent, You're oblivious to this. Think about like at work. You have a certain task that you perform, a certain title in your job, and you do your work and you do it well, and they look at it and they say that person, they're very good at what they do. Let's promote them, right? And so they take away those tasks and they give you new tasks, which have some parallel with the Old Testament, but mostly it's a lot of new stuff. What happens now? You're a rookie. You're a rookie. Now you got to figure this stuff out. See, we're always moving from veteran to rookie. If you don't like the infant to maturity model so much, think about veteran to rookie to veteran to rookie. Use the baseball model instead, you know? As soon as we know something, we get new stuff to learn that we don't know. Now, I was reading this week about Google Glasses. Google Glasses, did you see this? They're working on a real-time translation feature in Google Glasses where, don't ask me how these, but you put these things on and you go meet a person from another land, you know, and they start talking to you and it's translating in real time. And apparently as soon as you start speaking back to them, it's translating to them in real time. I think there are a few bugs to work out, but that was the gist of the article that I read. And of course, first thing I think of is now nobody has to learn languages anymore, which is kind of sad on the one hand, but on the other hand, there are a lot of languages I'd like to learn and I don't have time. But there's a coolness about learning a language that you show up, that you put in the time. And so if you go and see people who speak a different language, the fact that it's honoring to them, you know, that you put in the time to learn the language when you didn't really absolutely have to. And so all of that will go away with the Google Glasses. But the benefits beyond, you know, ego will be enormous because now everybody will understand each other. And once everybody understands each other, we're going to have new assignments. We're going to have new things to do. Now that we know what we're doing, we're over that hurdle. Now we have to figure out what are we going to build together as a world. Every time there's new information, the information has an application, and the application can be daunting to us. But realize, you learned the first time. You learned incredibly complicated stuff when you were very little. You learned how to tie your shoes. This is not easy. It takes a while, and now you do it like nothing. Later, you learn how to drive a car. I remember driving around with my uncle, growing up in a city where not a lot of people owned cars. My uncle had a big old Chrysler New Yorker with tail fins, you know, and a square steering wheel and a push-button transmission. I'm not making this up. And it was on the dashboard. And I remember watching him drive. He was one of these people, he drove with two fingers. I picked up that habit. You don't want that habit, but he drove like this, very delicately with two fingers, you know, swerving through traffic. And as a little kid, I watched him from the passenger seat drive, and I noticed that the wheel, and I've told you this before, but it's a good image, so I bring it up again. I have another image for you in a minute I'm gonna repurpose. But just this little movement of the wheel, I noticed he was constantly moving the wheel. And it looked to me like we were on a straight street, you know? Why is he playing the, well, you know why. Because there's a constant play to keep the car centered. I thought, I'll never master that. And then I watched his feet work. The thing didn't have a clutch. It was one of the first automatics probably, but you know, all of these different moving parts. I thought, this is beyond me. And now the only time when I find a hitch as a driver in what I'm doing is when I think too much about what I'm doing, right? Because otherwise it's muscle memory. You just get in, start thing, off you go, on and on. So we're learning as we go. We have the capacity to learn. We've demonstrated it before, and we've got a world of stuff to learn if we don't get in our own way, if we return to the basics of who we are in self-acceptance. You are a beautiful, wonderful, capable, amazing, marvelous, pick your favorite adjective, godling, expression of spirit. I'm not saying this to you because I want anything from you, although we will have a collection. I'm not saying this to you because you happen to be in this room this morning and not some other room, or watching our service and not some other service. I'm not saying this to you because I know each and every one of you personally and can vouch for the fact that you are this. I'm saying this to you because it's true. And it's just as true about the people who are driving up and down Springstubner Road right now while we're in here doing this, and the people who are flying in planes overhead, and the people who haven't been born yet, and the people who are our ancestors and their ancestors, and everybody and everything and everyone. Godlings are cats and dogs and canary birds too, with a different language. And maybe one day there'll be Google glasses and we'll know what the dolphins are saying and we'll know what the trees are saying. Why not, you know? So I just want to emphasize the idea this can be simpler than we've made it. There are design trends for the home. You can buy magazines. You can hire people to come in and consult, or you can just say, I like that. I want that. I want a JBL monitor. I want that in my house. You know, you pick these things because of how they make you feel. I want to read this book not because somebody's told me it's great or I should, but it speaks to me. Listen to this music because it speaks to me. We select these things. Which brings me to this story, which I've used before, and I do repurpose stories from time to time. I try to spread them out. I try to set them up. I don't have a real exact filing system, but I try to set them up on about 5-year intervals. Because you don't want in this business a reputation for saying the same thing over and over and over. But at the same time, if it's a good story, in 5 years, you've had turnover and people haven't heard it. And so, you know, you want to bring it out, not just. I was amazed, man. I was looking at some old notes because I have a lot of them, and there was some really good stuff I said back in the 80s. Some of it's dated because it's like, you know, taken from the headlines and things. I gave a whole talk on Martina Navratilova one Sunday when she had, I forget what she had accomplished, but it was off the charts like everything she did was, you know. And I thought, if I did that now, I wonder how many people remember her. I hope everyone, except the very young, would. Anyway, this isn't that great a story, but it's kind of cool. And I heard it from another minister. So there's this family, and they have this house. And one day, a member of the family brings home a red geranium and puts the red geranium in the kitchen window. I don't want to see too many of you nodding because that'll tell me that I breached the 5-year rule. I'd be like, oh my gosh, last week I told this, but no, it's been a while. Anyway, they bring home a red geranium and they put it in the kitchen window and they stand back. It's just so pretty, it lights up the room. In fact, it lights up the room so much, the kitchen looks kind of drab. The appliances are kind of old, the refrigerator makes noise, and the stove, one burner's out, or whatever, you know, and so they decide, well, let's go ahead and let's redo the kitchen. So they get new appliances and new cabinets and new floor, and now they have this sparkling new kitchen and the red geranium in the kitchen window, and of course next to the kitchen is the dining room. And now, because the kitchen is all bright and shiny and new, the dining room, they stand and look at it now. So they and they get a new table and chairs and a new hutch or what have you, buffet, you know, and the new lighting and stuff. And next to the dining room is the living room. And so now that needs work, and furniture's carried in and out. And next to that is the den, and you get the picture. And pretty soon they're into the upstairs and the bedrooms and everything, and they're spending thousands of dollars, tens of thousands, maybe $100,000 on redoing this house. They decide to put in a pool in the backyard because there's a nice backyard and a barbecue area, an outdoor grill. That's a big thing now, you know. And after the last worker has finished the last job, driven off, they stand back, the family, regarding the house. Wow, what a beautiful house. The only thing I would change is that red geranium in the window. Now, let that be a lesson to all of us. Let that be a lesson to all of us. We pull one thread, the whole sleeve falls off, you know. We chase something. Many of us are chasing something. If only we had a this, everything would be complete. But I promise you, and you know this is not new information. If you had a new this, it would lead to a that. And it would lead to a doing something with it. They say, if you hate your neighbors, buy your children drums. Give somebody a drum set, I promise you, they're going to pound on it. Give somebody a piano, and they're going to play. And then they're going to say, what does it take to be good? It takes theory. It takes building muscle memory in the hands, but it takes theory. It takes, what is that, the circle of fifths? All of the different chords, the time signatures, how the feet on the pedals move. It's going to take everything you get in this life is a red geranium. Everything, and you get to decide where to stop and reel it in and be with what's so and work with what's so. Otherwise, you're just exhausted. Because as soon as that family would replace that plant in that window, see, they'd be off and running again, and now they got to sell the house and get a new house, and now a plane and a boat, and pretty soon you need to be emperor of the known universe, and it's just it never ends. It never ends. And I'm not saying don't acquire. I'm not saying don't aspire to great things in terms of possessions, because somebody's busy making them right now. I was driving the other day, and this car went by me, and I looked, and it was a Bentley Lauzon. A Bentley Lauzon. Those are pricey cars, and they spend a lot of time, a bunch of people hand sewing that fabric and putting that car together, and that's great. How sad it would be if those craftspeople who do that work decided, well, nobody wants this thing, so give it up. I don't want one. Because I'd be one of these people at the supermarket parking weirdly a million miles away because I don't want to ding on the thing, right? I'd have this anxiety about it all the time. But somebody somewhere wants one, and somebody just drove by me and gave me, and you know what they gave me? They didn't give me a title to a Bentley. They gave me a line for my talk today. See? And that's how it works. Stuff falls off the truck and it becomes a line for your talk today. So I'm not saying don't aspire to luxury or these things, but just realize they're not where it's at. They're effects. Next week we're going to wrap up the series talking about cause and effect and how they really kind of are the same thing. But realize that what you seek in this life is really just an effective consciousness. I have long maintained that what people are seeking more than anything else is meaning. Meaning. Then I read Joseph Campbell again in the run-up to last month's series, and he said he thought not so much that people are seeking meaning as that people are seeking the experience of being alive. The experience of being alive, which you could argue is meaning, but the experience of being alive in the moment, where you feel, where you accept, where you let it all in. You say, I am. Not tomorrow, next week, right now. Not when I'm called up to the bigs, but right now. Not when I'm ordained, but right now. Right now, I am enough, just as I am. I am more than enough. Because, as beloved Sandy Newkirk puts it, because of who I am and because of whose I am. Okay? That which made me. So let's know together now. One life, one power, one presence. We're not kidding. We're not oversimplifying. That there is one. One person, one life. One field of consciousness. And into that I speak this word about each one of us here present and each one watching online. I speak this word of self-acceptance, self-trust, self-empowerment. That everyone should feel at the deepest possible level that they are enough. Enough for what? Enough to meet any challenge. enough to learn any new bit of information, enough to give and receive unconditional love, enough to heal this world right where they stand. I affirm and know this. And this law into which I speak has no capacity, much less a desire, to reject one iota of it. So it takes this idea and it runs with it, and it fleshes it out in form in the life of everyone concerned for this knowing and its manifestation in form. I am so deeply grateful. I release this word now into the infinite, calling it done, and so it is.
So it is.
And now we come to the moment where we do want something from you. So we come to giving time. But before we do that, as our ushers make their way to the back, I want to ask, is there anyone here for the first time today? Well, welcome back, everyone. We're so happy to see you again. If you're on for the first time online, please let us know that. You can email us at info@creativelife.org. You can just say hi in chat, or you can send us a message to Facebook Messenger. Any of those ways are fine to get us and say hi. And with that, again, we're come to giving time. I want to thank each and every one of you for all of the support that you give to this community and to this congregation. If it were not for you and your gifts, we could not and would not be here. It is because of what you give to this center that we are able to keep the lights on, that we are able to broadcast to you, that we are able to deliver such appropriate messages as Jesse does each and every week from this stage. And so I know, for one, that's so fulfilling and helpful for me in my life. And I hope that it's fulfilling and helpful in your life. And I hope that you show that through your gifts to this community. So I invite you now to say with me, divine love through me blesses and multiplies all the good I am and have, all the good I give and receive. I am prosperous now, and so it is.
We could use we could use a hand moving tables. Because, there's this thing next Friday. It's
This Friday.
this Friday. Oh, this Friday. I don't need another hand. We do need some hands to move tables, though. That is this Friday, and I've watched a couple of other ordinations, and
Speechless.
there is right, for a minister to be speechless. It's an experience like no other, so I look forward to going through it. And I find the thing that has stimulated me in my life is extremely appropriate to what Jesse was talking about today. I'm literally rearranging my house right now. I'm changing the stuff on the walls. I'm finding all the stuff that I could put on my walls that I didn't know I had. And I'm like, so I'm moving stuff around. And I know that it is directly related to what's going to happen this Friday. I don't have a red geranium. So by the end of all of this, I'm not going to look at that red geranium and think, but it's interesting. It's interesting. So if you are in the process of rearranging your life, you have my empathy, my sympathy, and I know what you're going through. Okay. But it's time to turn you loose on the world. So what would you like to carry out into the world today? God rearranged the world last night for us. And you saw the branch that came down. I'm sure you heard the thunderstorms. But what did that also bring us? Cooler weather. So in the midst of all of the upheaval, there are gifts to be found. As I am rearranging my house, there are gifts to be found. I'm finding things that I didn't know I had, or I had forgotten that I had. So, in that knowing, join me in the knowing of the one life, the one power, the one presence, the one love. The love that flows through each and every one of us. The one that we are the mode of action in this world of. When we act in this love, anything is possible. And so as we go through our day, our week, our month, our life, as we rearrange, as we renew, as we discover that which we didn't know we had, we discover that which we thought was lost. We find those gifts. Let us recognize where they came from, and let us use them to the fullest. So as we breathe that fresh, clean air after the storm, and look to the cleanup, and look to the new, the different, the better, or just simply the different. Let us know who we are. Let us know whose we are. Let us recognize the love flowing through us. And be grateful for that. What else is there? What else is there but love? And I'm grateful to know this. I'm grateful to feel this love. I am grateful for all of the people that make all of this possible. I'm grateful for all of the things that happen behind the scenes that we never see until it happens full-flowered in front of us. For the craftsmen, the artists, the musicians, the helping hands that move tables. I am grateful for this teaching. I am grateful for this place. I am grateful for our senior minister. I am grateful for our ministers, our practitioners, our musicians. I'm grateful that we have a safe place to come and be with each other. And I release my word into law, knowing it is done even as I speak these words, and so it is.
So it is.
Say with me now, something wonderful is happening through me.
Something wonderful is happening through me.
I feel it in my body.
I feel it in my
I
body.
feel it in my mind.
I feel it in my
I feel it
mind.
in everything I am.
I feel it in everything I
I
am.
choose it.
I choose
I
it.
trust it.
I trust
I
it.
use it.
I use
And
it.
I love it.
And I love it.
So it is.
And so it is.